Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new TEAM therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda. I won't get a chance to do that too many more times, so I thought I'd better get the most out of it.
Hello, David. It's really great to see you, and we want to welcome all of our listeners from across the world, across the galaxies, to the Feeling Good podcast, episode 498. And it seems like your voice goes from opera star to Broadway musical star when you say that.
Thank you. I'll take it. I'm so old and demented, I can't tell the difference. So I'll take any kind of compliment, sincere or joke.
Great. Well, tell our listeners what they're going to hear today.
Well, this is going to be, kind of the grand finale of your, 500th podcast, which is coming up in the third one from today. These are the last two, and of course, we'll reminisce a lot on number 500. But this is our best teaching ever. Which is live work, in this case with Hiral, a lovely, bright young woman from India. And she had problems that we can all identify with. The theme, of course, being I'm not good enough. In her case, she has a 4-year-old son, and he sometimes throws a temper tantrum, in particular when she took him for a vaccination, and I think she kind of had a meltdown herself, and then is beating up on herself. And it's a great two-part podcast on that specific issue.
Right.
And the outcome, which you'll see toward the end, especially if you look at the fantastic show notes we've got for you, you'll see that it was just another unbelievable total blowaway. We're going to have an upcoming part 3 with her. I don't know if it'll be a podcast or not, but we'll do relapse prevention training and see how she's doing after the session. She also had mentioned a lot of interpersonal issues with family and cultural issues that we chose not to deal with in this podcast just due to the shortness of time, but we might do a part 3 on include some of those on the part 3 as well. One other unique feature, today we'll do the empathy, the testing and the empathy part of the session. And then next week in 499, coming right up to number 500, we'll do the assessment of resistance, the so-called paradoxical agenda setting, which was pretty fantastic, and the methods, which were ultra fantastic. But another thing that is unique in this podcast, and it's not so much emphasized in the show notes, I'm going to just mention it now so you can listen for it, is that in the part 1 that you're going to hear, at the end we ask for 3 letter grades at the end of empathy with every patient. Like, how do you rate us in thought empathy? How do you rate us in feeling empathy? And how do you rate us in warmth and acceptance? Those are the 3 crucial dimensions of empathy. And she gave us, as you'll hear, an A or an A+, something like that on thought empathy. We understood exactly how she's been thinking. We got an A or an A+ on feeling empathy. But she refused to grade us on warmth and compassion and the relationship. And that meant two things. Number one, not only was she not feeling close to us, and that warm kind of acceptance that you're looking for. She didn't even trust us enough to give us a grade. And a lot of therapists would think that's a failure. But our philosophy is that your greatest failures are your greatest successes in disguise. And I was, in fact, having trouble feeling close to her. And I didn't know if it would entirely sabotage the session, but I'd never met her before, and I actually felt that way when I first met her, 30 minutes before the session began. I felt pushed away, and like she wasn't going to open up. And I thought, wow, if this isn't addressed, this session is going to be screwed. And so you'll hear that unfolding, and then at the start of part 2, which will be next week, you'll hear how I attempted to deal with it and how this turned out to be a most phenomenal session unfolded. Is anything I'm leaving out here, Rhonda?
Well, the bulk of this discussion with her, people are going to hear next week in 499. And, you're pretty, I don't know what
Really
you're a very bold therapist.
Yeah, that's right. And I got that from psychodrama.
And just speaking from my own experience, I am much more timid than you are. So, for example, when you said to her, which people are going to hear next week, that when you first met her, you didn't feel that close to her. I was riveted to that. And I thought, oh my God, how is this? What? Did he say that? What's going to happen next? Like, what is she going to be heard? I know that the personal work continued, but I thought, is she going to clam up? And I was, you say that therapists are scared to be real. And I was feeling kind of nervous and scared, even though I was just listening. And so I felt very riveted to listening to how that dialogue unfolded. And it did turn into a very meaningful exchange between the three of you, which led to a very successful personal work for her. And I think that's a key moment in your work with her. And it is, like I said, very riveting.
Thank you. I love what you're saying, and I agree 200%. Absolutely. So give it a listen and enjoy it, and then make sure you might not tend to read the show notes, but Jill wrote them in collaboration with AI for the first time. And so the two of them are pretty brilliant, and Jill has an IQ of 176.
Oh, gosh.
And AI has an IQ of 376. So together they're up around 500 or 600.
Wow.
And the show notes, they're just a work of art, like poetry. And so they'll enrich your understanding of what's going on in this session. We make it seem very simple, Jill and I do, but it's actually pretty complex what we're doing, and it exists on multiple levels simultaneously. But before we start, and I'm talking too much, and so I'm about to shut up, but we want to thank Hiral not only for giving us excitement and emotion and tears and a powerful personal experience we'll all share, but also she's giving us what is, to my way of thinking, the best teaching possible, showing you what therapy can be and what I believe therapy should be. It's not this way. And by what therapy should be, I mean a single 2-hour session where you pretty much complete the treatment. And people go from tears and despair, as Hiral did, to overwhelming joy. And that's in one, in this case, 2 hours session. Mm-hmm. And if that interests you, make sure you pay close attention, because we'll show you exactly how we made that happen.
Great.
Welcome, everyone, to Inside the Therapy Room Live with David Burns. I'm Jill Levitt, and I'm really excited to be presenting this half-day workshop alongside David. It's really a unique opportunity to see David and myself as a humble sidekick working with our volunteer this morning. We hope that you'll learn a lot and that it will touch your heart and that you'll be able to relate and connect and learn a lot as a therapist and a human being today. First, let me introduce you all to David, who maybe needs no introduction. David Burns is a world-renowned psychiatrist, CBT legend, best-selling author, and the creator of the Feeling Great app, which David is going to share a little bit more with us about at the end of the presentation. And in addition to being incredibly creative as a clinician and an author, David is just an amazing mentor and supporter of all of us who've been working with him and striving to learn these TEAM-CBT tools for many years. So it's always a total honor and pleasure to present with you, David. And now to introduce you to the volunteer that we're going to be working with today. Her name is Hiral. And David and I have never worked with Hiral before. We've actually never met Hiral before about 15 minutes before 9 o'clock this morning when we had a chance to talk with her. We have her daily mood log, though. We asked her to partially complete a daily mood log just to articulate kind of an event that was distressing to her. So, David, should we just go over Hiral's brief mood survey first? And then we can ask Hiral to tell us a little bit about herself and what she's been struggling with.
Sure. But first of all, Hiral, thank you so much for joining us. And how are you feeling at this moment?
I'm feeling very nervous.
Thank you for telling us that, and tell us about that nervousness that you're feeling right now. How strong is it, and what are the thoughts associated with that?
I think I'm feeling that I hope I don't make fool out of myself in front of so many people who are here to learn.
And how would I make a fool of myself?
I think by making mistakes.
So it sounds like that there's a voice inside of you that's a little bit perfectionistic and telling you mustn't make mistakes. And I can imagine that creates a lot of anxiety right now. But I'm wondering if it also creates a feeling of loneliness. That here we are two people, and I would like to care about you, and Jill would like to care about you. But I'm wondering if that pressure that you're putting under yourself also leads to feeling alone.
Yes, it does.
And can you tell us about feeling alone or lonely right at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, not only this moment. I think it's been forever because I think when you're thinking so much about what others will think, I think you just end up feeling lost and disconnected from everybody and what's happening right now. And you're not able to focus also on anything.
If I understand correctly what you're saying, and I don't always get it right, so let me know when I don't, but that's been a long time in your life that this feeling is something that's with you a lot, and maybe the feeling of alone and disconnection is something that's with you an awful lot. And
yes.
And when I realize that about you, I just want to share that I feel a kind of sadness because I know that you're a beautiful, vulnerable person, but that you're holding a lot in. and hopefully we can connect with you. And I love your smile right now. What are you thinking just at this moment?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that, you're just getting things right, that I'm not able to speak as much as I would want to right now.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Exactly. And I'll try to get you to speak in spite of that reluctance. And if we do, the dam will break open and the waters will flow. I'm sure. But let's do our business. But thank you for that. I loved what you just said, Hiral. Uh, the brief mood survey, most of the scores go from 0 to 20, and on the depression test, your score this morning, just before starting, was 11, and that's a moderate level of depression. But two of the symptoms were a lot, and that's sad and down in the dumps and discouraged and hopeless. And then some of the other symptoms, low self-esteem and loss of motivation and loss of pleasure and satisfaction in life were elevated, but not quite so severely. But that's way more than enough depression to take the joy out of life, in spite of the fact that there's a lot of potential sources of joy with a beautiful little smart little boy, spunky little guy, and your training and your certification exam coming up, and how great it would be to unleash that beautiful Hiral who's hiding behind all of this stuff, and that's the kind of miracle we're hoping for. No suicidal urges. The anxiety was slightly stronger even than the depression, 14 out of 20. That would be certainly moderate heading into the severe. And 4 of the 5 anxiety symptoms were a lot, like anxiety and worrying and tense and nervous and so forth. So you're experiencing, depression and anxiety both in pretty big doses. And then another thing that, Jill, you pointed out is that the anger is quite strong also, and will be an important part, I think, of what we deal with this morning. It's as strong as the anxiety, and it's 14 out of 20. So that's a moderate to severe level of anger. And if we didn't do this test, we wouldn't be aware of that you're having these feelings and exactly how strong they are. And we can't guarantee anything, but our goal, depending on what your goals are, would be to see if we can cause some shifts in today's session. Now, the happiness, this version of the happiness scale also goes from 0 to 20. And your score was 8. Now, on this one, a 20 would be the greatest happiness. And so the 8 shows very little happiness in terms of feeling, happy and joyful only somewhat, and hopeful only moderately. There's nothing here that's a lot or extremely. So that of course relates to the depression, that you're feeling down and you're not feeling a lot of joy and reward. And then another thing that came up here is with your husband, the relationship satisfaction scale goes from 0 to 30, and your score was 10, and indicating some level of dissatisfaction with all 5 areas of the relationship. And I'm sure that will play a role as well in what's going on. And then if it makes sense to you, Jill, I'll turn it back over to you, and we can do a little empathy, and then we can do the daily mood log. We should probably do it early to give users a feel. And if you look at that page in your handout 4, you can see Hiral's daily mood log with a lot of self-critical thoughts. But why don't you take us from first base to second base here, Jill?
Yeah, that sounds great. And yeah, I'd like to just hear a little bit in an open-ended way from Hiral so that we feel like we know who she is and a little bit about the context in kind of an open-ended fashion. And then as part of empathy, we can also turn to the daily mood log where Hiral took a few minutes to try to think through what some of the thoughts are that are driving these feelings. But yeah, tell us about you, Hiral. We sent out an email requesting a volunteer, and you sent me an email saying you'd love to get some help. So tell us a little bit about what you're looking for help with and some of the context.
So I think the biggest help is that I really want to feel relaxed while I'm doing whatever. I mean, even if it's playing a role of a mother, I want to just feel relaxed and happy and not just worry about his future or his behaviors. And even if I'm, preparing for my level 3 or, attending some classes, I just want to feel as if, I can do it instead of thinking that, oh, I'm just way behind other colleagues of mine just because, my entire focus is on my son and like nurturing him up, because I also feel, so behind in this race when I come across colleagues who have younger kids than me. And I feel, oh my God, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And so I don't feel happy, even like, while I'm attending to my son. And if I'm, doing something for myself, I feel that, I'm not doing enough for my son. So either ways, I'm not happy.
Mm. Yeah. So, and again, happy to hear more about what I'm hearing you say so far, and what you shared with us a little bit is you have a little boy, right? An almost 4-year-old son, and you're feeling just a lot of pressure to be an excellent mother and to do a really good job nurturing him and caring for him and raising him well. And so you're often feeling not good enough, right? You're questioning yourself and you're not able to enjoy your time with him because you're feeling so much pressure to be an excellent mother and to raise him perfectly. And then that bleeds a little bit into your professional work as well, where it sounds like you're training and learning this model, the TEAM-CBT model. You're getting ready for a level 3 certification exam, and you're also not feeling good enough there. You're comparing yourself to your colleagues, it sounds like, and thinking, I'm not doing as much work as they are. I'm not as prepared as they are. And the same thing in the parenting realm. I'm behind my friends who have children this age. I'm not as good of a parent as they are. And that's really zapping a lot of kind of joy out of your life. Is that, am I getting you? And happy to hear more of that too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, I think I feel so tired the whole day, despite not doing anything physically so much engaging. So, yeah, I just feel tired. And then, yeah, I just feel I'm just moving in some kind of a circle or a loop, and the loop is not getting done. I mean, it's just going on and on. I'm not able to sleep well. Um, Even if I try so hard to just relax, it is very difficult. I mean, it's not that easy to even relax on Sundays, as if, I'm just being too harsh on myself, or, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, when you said you feel so tired the whole day and you're not able to sleep very well, you're not able to relax, and tell us more. And again, we can look to your daily mood log for sure, but tell us more about why that is. When you ended by saying, I'm just so hard on myself. So is that, it feels like you're in this kind of loop of self-criticism?
Yeah, I think, see, I'm a kind of a person who likes, uh, to have peace and harmony and some kind of order in the house. And when I see that people elder to me, they are not understanding that what what exactly is needed to be done in the house. And, I'm also being a young mother. I'm also struggling so much, to um, like to manage my own emotions, overwhelming emotions, and to also to not get triggered by his behavior, and also then the unsupportive family environment. So I think that is why I feel so tired. That it seems like, if I try to save one boat, I think I'm missing the other two ones. And if I'm taking care of myself and my son, then I think I'm not able to take care of the family. And I also really think that it's very important for me to take care of myself first and my son, because he's dependent on me. But at the same time, it also seems that we are also dependent on our parents. So that is making things very difficult for us.
Can you tell us more about that, Hiral? It sounds like you like, and this kills me when I think about all the pressures on women in all societies, really. That you've got to be this perfect mother, and then wife and family, and then the professional demands. You're trying to do all of these things, in a really high level way, and just constantly beating up on yourself and never getting a chance to enjoy anything. And can you tell us more about that, and especially the anger, because you're carrying a lot of anger, kind of toward loved ones and so forth.
And you might want to share with us and the audience just where you're located and a little bit of a kind of cultural background as well, just because I think we would be remiss to not acknowledge that too.
Yeah, so I'm from India, and there's this state called Gujarat. So I'm from Gujarat basically, and like we still live in a joint family where I have my husband who's an only child, and we have our own family business. But still, my husband is despite being so independent at work, we still have to, be dependent on my father-in-law for the finances and everything. So, and apart from even that, I think there is this huge generation gap also, which we are dealing with. And also, we come from a background where, like, not exactly background, but his family is such that it's very rigid when it comes to adapting to new things, or, even acknowledging the fact that, someone can have different, thoughts and opinions and approaches and perspective towards life. So I think it becomes more challenging, frustrating, and irritating for me to, accommodate their needs, and at the same time to, accommodate my son's needs. So, and yeah, so, and plus also, my own house is not in the city. So, the reason why I feel so lonely is because there is just no space for me to even talk to my parents openly, or talk to my friends, because I'm not working right now. So I don't get to go out so much often. Only time I go out is to pick up and drop my son, or I have started working out recently. So it is only that is the time when, I get some time for myself, where I can connect to my friends or connect to my parents. So, yeah, so it just feels too much to handle at the same time. And it is also affecting my mental well-being and physically also. I have like hormonal imbalance and a lot of things going physically.
So, Hiral, I had one question that it wasn't clear on, and then I can reflect a little more on what you said. So are you and your husband and your son living in the house with your in-laws as well?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. But not your parents, correct?
No.
Right. And so you're saying, like, it feels like you're having to address the needs of your husband and your husband's parents and your son. And so there's just a lot that you're really very much giving to a lot of people and trying to take care of the needs of a lot of people in the home. And at this point, you're raising your son and not yet, not back to work or not yet practicing, though you've been studying and you're kind of on that road. But it feels like even maybe it would be really helpful and connecting to be able to talk to your parents and talk to your friends. But right now you've been really stuck at home caring for your son and just feeling a bit trapped. And it sounds like you're making a bit of progress on that you've just started going to the gym, working out, taking care of yourself more, getting out of the house to drop your son places and finding small pockets of places to connect. But you're definitely feeling, that you need more of that, and that's kind of making you feel more down and stressed as well.
Yeah. And to add one more little thing, you mentioned that your father-in-law, not to be critical of him or his wife, but that they're a little rigid and slow to capture on to new perspectives. And I can recall when my wife and I moved back to California, where we now live after 20 years in Philadelphia. We were, it was great because we were close to my in-laws, my father-in-law and my stepmother-in-law. But we liked to hang out with them and go to movies and stuff. But their values and understanding of life was so radically different. Even the thing of emotions and talking about emotions was something they it seemed kind of alien to them. And my stepmother-in-law, couldn't imagine how a human being would ever be depressed. And so it was. And they thought when you go to the doctor, you do what the doctor tells you. There's no critical thinking, and it was just a completely different philosophy. But we loved being with them, and we weren't with them all the time. But I can imagine very well if we were trapped living with them in the same house, it would have been enormously uncomfortable.
Yeah, and plus I think they are also expecting us to live the way they are living, which is absolutely not fair. And their life is only the four walls of the house or the four walls of the office. And I'm someone who loves exploring. I love adventure, but then, and plus the city from where I come, I had a lot of friends, and my life was very happening. So now that I've come to another city, I have been married since 8 years now, and I am mother since 4 years. So for me also, it's a huge adjustment. So one of the reasons why I also feel angry so much is that when I am trying to accommodate to someone else's needs, and when it's their time to reciprocate and understand that even my needs are supposed to be taken into consideration, or even I have to be taken care of. I think when that understanding doesn't come from very closed ones, I think then you feel where do you go? So it's like that.
So you're expected to take care of their needs, but you don't see a lot of people trying to take care of your needs.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then in addition, your life as you know it, want to know it, is you love adventure. You love things that are happening, excitement. You have a lot of friends. And now almost all of that's kind of cut off for you. So you're almost in kind of a prison.
Yes.
Yeah. It's good to see you smile, but I can imagine it's a very painful thing. And I sure hope we can find at least step one in getting some relief on this thing, because it sounds just awful for you, Hiral.
Yes, it is.
You don't even have time with yourself.
Yeah, not as much. So I just feel guilty of, taking some time out for myself. It's now that I've started working out or taking care of my health is only since the time I've gotten to know that, okay, if I don't take care of myself, I might end up getting, getting into a severe illness related to my menstrual cycle and all of that. So only that is something which is, making me think of taking care of myself, because I know as it's never going to be enough, no matter how much I do for my in-laws, because they are never satisfied with whatever I do. So it's like, even if I do something for them, they will never appreciate and acknowledge. And even if I don't do something for them, of course, then there is this lot of criticism, and there is this lot of disappointment that I see on their faces and in their behavior.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a one-way street.
Yeah, it is.
Give. Aaron Beck used to call that a give-get imbalance. Mm-hmm. Giving, and never getting anything in return. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So really sounds horrible. I'll give it back to you, Jill.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I mean, two things that I think would be helpful for us to do at this point, David. One is we could check with Hiral and ask how we were doing on empathy and ask her to give us a grade. And the other thing is that perhaps before or after that, maybe it makes sense to do it before it, is to go over her daily mood log with her. I'm kind of hearing, two areas of work or two areas of distress that Hiral is having right now. And one is this kind of what we think of as an individual mood difficulty, right? Being really hard on yourself and self-critical, feeling not good enough as a mom and in your work and as a student, even as a daughter-in-law. So there's kind of that piece, which I think we could explore a lot more and maybe bring to life more looking at your daily mood log together. And then there's kind of a separate topic that might be related a bit, but that I think actually would be a separate focus, which has more to do with relationships and some of the anger and resentment and frustration and loneliness she's feeling as related to her in-laws and husband and kind of situation in life. So my guess is, yeah, I hear it in these kind of two different categories. And my guess is that, well, we should make sure that we're understanding her correctly, but maybe go down the road more of the individual mood and the being hard on herself and turn to her daily mood log to bring that to life more. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I see it as like two battles to be won here. Mm-hmm. The individual and the interpersonal.
Exactly.
And they both have solutions and a lot of great things that can be done. But I think if we start with the daily mood log and the way you're criticizing yourself, yeah. That would be a tremendous first step, all the while acknowledging that there's still some relationships and husband and family issues that need to be dealt with in a skillful way.
Mm-hmm. So how does that sound to you, Hiral? Can we maybe walk the audience through your daily mood log and have you look at your thoughts and feelings with us and kind of focus more on that aspect of it, the kind of self-criticism and being hard on yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. So
let's do the daily mood log first, and then we can do the empathy
exactly.
grades.
I agree. Yeah. Do you want to take the lead on that, David?
Yeah. But feel free to chime in. But
let me just tell the audience to turn to page 4 in the handout packet. That is actually where you have Hiral's daily mood log. And without seeing her at all, we just asked her to think of a moment in time and put that at the top and circle the feelings that were coming up for her and write down the negative thoughts that she was having as she was feeling that. And this is kind of what she shared with us. So David, maybe you can walk us through it.
Yeah, the upsetting moment, and we always try to focus on one moment because all of your problems will be embedded in any one moment when you're upset. And so we can use the daily mood log to understand what's going on, as well as to trigger some hopefully fairly profound changes. But my heart went out to you, Hiral, when I read this one, because we have a new baby in our family. My son and his wife have a beautiful little boy who's just 9 months old. But he came down. They live about an hour from here, and they brought him to have us babysit for a few hours while the two of them went to a spa and took a little break. And he had kind of a meltdown because mommy was gone, and he just screamed, and it was and it went on for a good hour and a half, and it was uncomfortable to try to figure out what to do or how to think about it. But you and your mother-in-law took your son for a vaccination, and this was on January 3rd, and he had a meltdown, and you were really affected by it, and you were feeling down and unhappy 100%, anxious 100%, guilty and ashamed 100%, inferior and defective 100%, lonely at 80, embarrassed and self-conscious 100, hopeless 100, frustrated 100, and annoyed and irritated 80%. And I just want to point out that, again, getting these measures is not a trivial thing at all, because if you went to the Stanford psychiatric inpatient unit and tested any of the patients there, they would not have scores higher than this. And that means that the distress that you were feeling at that time, and probably still feel a lot of the time, is so severe as to be almost hard for people to imagine, if they haven't experienced something similar. Does that make sense, Hiral?
Yeah.
That it's really like being in an emotional hell. And then what are the thoughts that are triggering it? And number one, you were telling, and this is so eye-opening here, Hiral, speaks to your pain as well as what's really beautiful and awesome about you. You're telling yourself, I'm not a good mother, and that's 100%. And then you identified a bunch of distortions in that I'll ignore for the moment, but all or nothing thinking is certainly a huge one for perfectionism. And then a should statement that often goes hand in hand with self-criticism and all or nothing thinking. I should be able to handle my son well, and you also believe that 100%. I'm failing as a mother 100%. And I will ruin my son's future if I'm unable to handle and nurture him well 100%. And then you added a few additional ones that I added to my daily mood log just by hand. And if you're watching, you can add to yours also. Number 5, I should always know everything. That was 80%. That's why you were feeling overwhelmed before we began, put more pressure. The idea here for us to help you relax and be with you and support you, but that you have to know everything and get it just right. And I felt sad seeing what pressure that you're on. And then my family will judge me if and blame me if I ever make any mistakes. And that's 100%. And I'm sure that triggers guilt and shame and anger and frustration and resentment as well. And that I should always be able to protect my son from any physical attack, like if another angry child were to attack him when they're playing, but also to protect him from any emotions. And can you think of any additional thoughts we've had since we started, Hiral or Jill, that we could add?
The only other one I captured what she said in the very beginning of our work just now, I shouldn't make any mistakes.
Yeah. And we didn't have that already.
No, I mean, you could say it's similar to I should always know everything, but it's not exactly.
I see. Yeah. That's a good one. I shouldn't make any mistakes. And when you tell yourself that, how believable is that, Hiral?
I think 80%.
80%. Okay. That's a powerful one. Yeah. I have a question for you, Jill, because I know from my own history, I struggled with a lot of perfectionism on multiple levels early in my career, Hiral. But did you ever, Jill? Well, you did, yes. The first time we worked together, it was on perfectionism.
Yeah, absolutely. Which one did you want me to share? I mean, the first time that I ever did personal work with David in the early days of the Tuesday group back when we met in David's living room, I was sharing my being very hard on myself. I think the example was around clinical work, right, David?
Yeah.
Or was it? Yeah, I mean, I struggled with it related to clinical work, patient care, as well as parenting. But yeah, being very hard on myself and feeling not good enough and self-critical and perfectionistic. And then I also did another bout of personal work around parenting stuff where my son, who was, yeah, probably a similar age, maybe a little older, 6 or something, was being kind of mean to his brother, went through a period of time where he was being mean to his brother. And I was honestly really worried that I wasn't doing a good enough job parenting him and he was going to end up being like a sociopath because he wasn't showing enough empathy to his younger brother when my older son was about 6 and his little brother was about 3. And I struggled with that a lot, thinking, what am I doing wrong that he's not being more empathic and kind to his brother? Yeah. And I said to David that when we were chatting right before this session, I said to David, I even had one of those thoughts this morning when my younger son, who's now 18, was talking about wanting to eat less because he wants to look super fit. And I started to worry in my mind if he would have an eating disorder, because I happen to be reading a book right now about eating disorders to help one of my patients. And so that was top of mind. And I thought, damn, what am I doing wrong that now my 18-year-old is obsessed with body image? And so I can really relate to so much of what you're sharing. And I suspect so many people in our audience can too.
And then a question for you, because this relates to you also, Hiral, is that the personal work that we're doing today has a double goal. One, of course, is to bring you some relief and joy, to make your life a lot more worth living, and to see if we can find a way to bring that about. But secondly is we're trying to pave the way for really people to develop really superb therapy skills. And now you, Jill, have developed teaching and therapy skills that far eclipse my own, and I'm proud to say that. But to what extent was your own personal work played a role in evolving to this amazing level that you're at today?
Yeah. So I mean, the personal work that I've done with you and others over the years has been so impactful in my journey. And I think I've always felt that we have to practice what we preach, right? And so if I'm struggling with perfectionism, then I need to work on it. And I think doing my own personal work, as I hope is the case for you, Hiral, as well, it also kind of gave me so much of a deeper understanding of the model and how it works. Actually, David recalls sometimes, and this is a tangent, so I don't want to take up too much time, but there was a time early in, or I don't know how long ago, maybe 10 years ago or something, where I was doing some personal work with David and a group, and he kind of went from empathy, testing and empathy, to methods, and we had a great session. And at the end, I said, "Oh man, I think you skipped agenda setting," and I felt a little. I felt like I missed out on this opportunity to actually feel proud of my symptoms. And that was when David started to think, oh, maybe everyone can benefit from addressing resistance. And so, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that doing personal work is not only incredibly helpful to us personally as human beings, but also so helpful in learning the model.
And the reason, I'm sure, is obvious, but a high percentage of the patients you treat in your career, Hiral, will also have this belief, I'm not good enough. And so your personal work will become as valuable as your training, and sometimes more so. So, and anyway, should we get our empathy grades at this point?
Yeah, I think let's check in with you, Hiral, and ask you, and David, maybe you can ask those questions. But yeah, we've spent a good amount of time so far, maybe 40 minutes, connecting with Hiral, going through her daily mood log and listening. And now we'll check in and ask Hiral how we're doing on empathy and figure out if we're ready to move forward.
Yeah, so if you could grade us in 3 areas, you can tell us, whatever you want to tell us too, but the first one would be thought empathy. And what that means is, how accurately have Jill and David understood how you're thinking, your negative thoughts that are going through your mind? The second area is, to what extent are we understanding your negative feelings, your depression, your anxiety, your guilt, your anger, your discouragement, your shame, your embarrassment, your loneliness? And then third is, to what extent, this is the big one, and maybe the toughest one in a sense, to what extent have David and Jill created a sense of warmth and trust and connection and acceptance, that you feel accepted and cared about in a genuine way? So if you can grade us in those three areas.
Yeah, so I think for the first two, it's A. And for the last one, I don't know, because I don't know how relevant I am for most of the people who are watching me, because the reason why I'm thinking this is because there are people who, have like probably different kind of culture and family background and setup. So I don't know if, what I'm speaking is making sense to them. So that is why I just feel, I don't know. I mean, when the third thing comes.
The third question, though, was, David, to what extent are you, Hiral, feeling a sense of acceptance from Jill and David, a sense of warmth? Isn't that right, David? It was asking Hiral, to what extent do you feel like David and I are providing you with a feeling of warmth and empathy and trust?
Or maybe you were also thinking that we have a different family background, so maybe we're not able, just like the people in the audience. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think I really feel when I talk about my family background or something like that, my family issues, I think I'm talking about some third world issues, because there are so many other things that people might be facing, or I think. Yeah, so I just feel that, like these are very basic issues. Like nowadays, hardly anybody would be feeling, or this is what actually I feel in my mind. I'm not sure about anyone else in the audience.
So are you feeling maybe that we don't really get the fact that you're struggling with, like, say, family issues that are heavily woven into your culture, and maybe we won't get what you're saying and all the pressures on you, so that you're still feeling a little bit alone and lonely, even with David and Jill.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder, David, I have a couple thoughts here, but Hiral, I wonder if it might be meaningful for you if I read a couple of things that people are saying in the chat around their feeling connected with you. And it's a unique situation, David, because it's not just you and I, but she's feeling like she's got this audience of people who maybe don't understand. Would it be useful for me to share that with Hiral?
That's a good thing, and I have a direction also. So
Okay. Do you want to tell me what you're thinking first, or you want me to share it?
yeah, well, what I'm thinking is that Hiral, you're keeping a lot inside all the time, even as though you're like a pressure, uh, and that I'm wondering if there are some times when you feel tearful, or even when you're talking to David and Jill, and feel like it would be awfully nice to let the defenses down and let some feelings of sadness and loneliness flow and share. You may not. This may be way off base, but that's kind of, and that's kind of similar to what you were thinking, Jill. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. So even while I'm talking, I do feel like crying, but then I also, in the back of my mind, I feel this is not a real therapy session. So, I should not be talking too much, or, I don't want to take away too much time in speaking and, talking about my story. So, yeah.
So there are times that you're feeling like you'd really like to cry, and then you kind of tell yourself, maybe I'm not performing well enough, or I'm taking up too much time, or something of that nature. Can you tell us what you're thinking and feeling when you kind of want to cry here? Tell us what that's like, what you're thinking and feeling when you're feeling vulnerable and alone.
I think right now I want to be more productive.
Just let those tears come. I have, Hiral, I have a virtual hug for you. That's bad therapeutic technique, because we're not allowed to touch a patient. But I'm just feeling really close to you right now when you're sharing those tears. Yeah, and I'm grateful, for what you're doing. And then I felt sad when you're crying and saying, I want to be more productive. The you know I guess I want you to be a lot less productive and just be more like this. This is the beautiful side of you, to my way of thinking.
And there's no expectation of you not sharing your tears. To the contrary, we want this to feel as real as possible, right? This is not scripted. This is not therapy, but it is a real live session, right? And so we want you to be able to be real and vulnerable, even though I can imagine that's actually really hard. Do you want to just share with us what's coming up for you now as you're feeling kind of more vulnerable or more emotional?
Yeah, so I think it just feels that, I don't want to do anything, no performance, and, just sit aside and uh, just not think anything and just watch some good Netflix stuff and, just chill and not worry about the world, what the world is thinking, or what will happen if I'm not around my son or my family.
Yeah.
I just want to be by myself, not giving anything to anyone apart from myself.
You feel so burdened, it sounds like, right? By the thoughts and feelings, right? I mean, burdened to have to take care of your son, but truly what's feeling like such a burden is this kind of talk track that keeps saying you're not good enough, you need to be doing more, that's worrying about him. And you're feeling like, I just wish I could tune all of that out and watch Netflix and chill and not be thinking and worrying. Am I getting you right?
Yes.
And that's so resonates because you shared earlier that you do feel so tired and overwhelmed by constantly beating yourself up and measuring yourself against others and worrying that you're not doing enough, right? And so I hear you saying, I really want to be able to tune that out and just kind of be present and not feel so burdened. Am I getting you right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I just want to say, I think that's so unbelievably relatable for so many people, whatever the context, to feel like it's their mind that's their own worst enemy, and that if they could just kind of turn it off and be in the moment and relax and enjoy, that's the bliss that they're after. I think that's so unbelievably relatable, actually. Mm, David, I also wanted to share with Hiral because I do think it's it's fair because you're really putting yourself out on a limb here. Just that so many people, when you said you were worried that this is some other unique kind of problem that people couldn't relate to, just the chat box, which I don't want you and David focusing on because it's very distracting, and I'm going to close it as well. But the chat box is basically saying this is very relevant, what you're sharing about your life, your challenges with your in-laws, your husband, the demands of life. So many people saying I relate to the psychological pressure from in-laws and self-criticism and despite the cultural differences, most moms can understand difficult family dynamics that make us feel unheard, unseen, and alone. So many people saying what you're describing is so relatable, so human, and also that they're so honored that you're being so open and vulnerable. So I won't go on and on, but we got lots of messages in the chat just saying that people are feeling so connected to you and so honored to hear your story.
How are you feeling right now, Hiral? You kind of opened up a little bit and seem a little quiet. I'd just love to hear what you're feeling and thinking right now.
I'm thinking after hearing the chats, I think I'm being more productive. That's what I'm thinking. I'm sorry, but I can't,
Yeah.
unwire myself. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
easy. Yeah.
Right.
That's beautiful because you really
Right.
are. Yeah. You gave us a huge gift here.
Right.
And you've made the biggest contribution so far to the workshop. Through yeah. By the way, you watch Netflix? You like to watch Netflix on television by yourself?
Yeah.
Don't you think that's kind of shameful?
No, it's not.
I used to have a rule, I guess I still do, that because there's so much anti-television propaganda all the time. And so my position is every human being needs to watch 20 hours of television per week to maintain mental health. And it's certainly a rule that I follow.
It was actually my New Year's resolution to try to watch more TV this year. So I'm not actually kidding. So to just, as you said, create time to chill, right? And so, yes, again, very relatable, right? Very relatable.
I also want you to know, Hiral, that what you did just now and kind of sharing those feelings and letting the tears flow, I'll never forget that, Hiral. And if we were in the same orbit, like if you were here in the United States and attending the Tuesday group and stuff, every time I would see you in person, I would see that Hiral and feel close to you.
I think the reason why I'm not able to open up so much is because nobody's cared so much. So, I mean, nobody bothers. Nobody's really willing to understand how I'm feeling. I mean, I'm almost invisible and unheard. So when you guys are, paying so much of attention on my feelings and everything, it's like, I'm not in it. The voice inside me is just saying, no, you're not important. So, don't, they're not connecting with you. They're just doing their part. So it's so hard to even believe that, somebody can care for you so much, because I'm so used to being unheard and unseen and feeling so unimportant in my own life.
Yeah, that it's really hard for you to accept that somebody could care about you.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem believable.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, that's I think that's the most important thing that you've said, and I sensed that about you within 15 seconds of meeting you earlier, before the workshop began, and I didn't feel close to you, and it was very troubling to me. And I thought about these things at that time, and how this getting locked up in not believing anyone could care about you is another huge dimension of it that keeps you kind of trapped and unhappy. That voice. How are you feeling right now in terms of the letter grade on the acceptance?
Yeah, I think now I'm really ready to accept that. Yeah, I mean, there is some connection being formed. I mean, I really want to believe. So I think I've moved towards 80%. I'll not be able to grade, but yeah.
That's great. Thank you for that. Let me ask you this question now. Suppose that this was a very good experience for you here, I guess tonight. It's tonight in your part of the world there. And at the end, you had the thought, wow, that session with David and Jill was really kind of life-changing. What would happen? What would you be hoping for by the end of today's session?
I think I just hope to feel more relaxed and just feel comfortable in my own skin.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.